Welcome back, viewers. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan Chandra.
And I'm Diksha Bisla, and on the show today, fresh US sanctions now target Russia's biggest oil giants as Washington turns up the heat on Moscow. President Trump says he always has good conversations with Putin, but they just don't go anywhere. And this, of course, comes right after they shelved the planned meeting in Budapest. So where do things stand now between Washington and Moscow? We'll break it down on the show today. Stay tuned.
Also on World DNA, fugitive diamond merchant Mehul Choksi has hit a major roadblock. A Belgian court has said that there's no legal barrier to sending him back to India anymore, calling the charges against him serious enough to justify the extradition. Is Choksi finally running out of legal options? Will he now be back in India? We'll get you the details on this. Let's first look at the headlines. This is World DNA.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi unlikely to travel to Malaysia for the upcoming ASEAN and East Asia summits, missing meetings with US President Trump. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is expected to represent India.
The two biggest oil companies, among the biggest in the world, but they're Russian. They do a lot of oil.
Donald Trump slaps sanctions on Russia's two largest oil companies, complaining that his talks with Vladimir Putin to end the Ukraine war don't go anywhere.
Donald Trump says he expects to reach a trade deal with Chinese President Xi Jinping and intends to raise concerns about Beijing's purchase of Russian oil during their meeting in South Korea next week.
Qatar and Saudi Arabia condemned the Knesset, approving two laws imposing Israeli sovereignty over occupied West Bank regions, calling it a blatant violation of rights of Palestinian people and a challenge to international law.
New US strikes on an alleged drug smuggling boat kills two people. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announces first such attack on a vessel in the Pacific Ocean. Trump said the administration has legal authority to carry out these strikes.
Well, he's a thug and bad guy. He's a guy that is making a lot of drugs. We've just, as of today, stopped all payments going to Colombia, the country Colombia.
Trump and his Colombian counterpart exchange angry threats as the US president calls Gustavo Petro a thug and a drug trafficker, prompting the leftist leader to vow legal action in US courts.
Venezuela's President Maduro says Caracas has 5,000 Russian-made surface-to-air missiles to counter US forces in the Caribbean, emphasizing their role in key air defense positions to ensure peace.
"23 people arrested as hundreds of protesters and police clash for the second night in a row outside an asylum seeker hotel near Dublin. Police say officers had bottles, bricks and fireworks launched at them.
North Korea says it tested a cutting-edge new weapon system using hypersonic missiles which were aimed at bolstering its defenses. It comes a week before world leaders, including Trump, are set to descend on South Korea for the APEC summit.
Liverpool end their losing run in style. The Reds come from a goal down to thrash Frankfurt 5-1 in the Champions League, with Hugo netting against his former club.
US President Donald Trump imposed new sanctions on Russia's two largest oil companies, Rosneft and Lukoil, due to Moscow's continued military operations in Ukraine.
Trump looked frustrated. He sounded frustrated. He stated that his conversations with Putin are good, but ultimately they don't go anywhere, highlighting the challenges in reaching a resolution to the conflict.
Well, I think that in terms of honesty, the only thing I can say is every time I speak with Vladimir, I have good conversations, and then they don't go anywhere. They just don't go anywhere. So in that sense, but no, look, he's fighting a war. He's in a war. That's two very competent sides, and that's the way war is. You never know with war, but I would say that it's time to make a deal. A lot of people are dying.
Well, Trump said that he hoped sanctions on Russia's oil companies will help make Putin reasonable about ending the war. He added that China could also play a big role in this regard.
Today is a very big day in terms of what we're doing. Look, these are tremendous sanctions. These are very big. Those are against their two big oil companies. And we hope that they won't be on for long. We hope that the war will be settled.
NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, after meeting with Donald Trump at the White House, said that Putin will agree to the ceasefire with sustained pressure. He also called on allies to join Russian sanctions push.
I'm absolutely convinced that with sustained pressure, we will be able to get Putin to the table to agree with a ceasefire and then other talks coming after that.
While justifying Trump's new sanctions, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said it was necessary as Putin was not honest in talks with Trump.
Adding pressure on Putin, Denmark, which holds the EU's rotating presidency, said that EU countries have approved a 19th package of sanctions against Russia, including a ban on Russian liquefied natural gas imports. On the war front, Russian drone strikes hit Zaporizhia, injuring 15 people, including 3 children, and damaging over 15 buildings, including apartment complexes and private homes. More than 120 residents have reported damage to their properties. Emergency crews are on the scene, clearing debris and assessing the destruction.
Well, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has signed a letter of intent with Sweden to potentially acquire up to 150 Gripen E fighter jets produced by Saab. Now, during his visit to Linköping, Sweden, Zelensky got a first-hand look at the Gripen's capabilities, sitting in the cockpit and learning more about the aircraft's advanced features. And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York. Take a look.
The U.S. Treasury has officially rolled out a sweeping new round of sanctions on Russia, this time directly targeting its two largest oil giants, Rosneft and Lukoil. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says the move is aimed at cutting off key funding sources for the Kremlin after months of stalled diplomacy and renewed Russian strikes in Ukraine. Politically, this marks a major U-turn by the Trump administration, which until now at least had focused on negotiations as opposed to punishment. As for those tomahawks that Ukraine was hoping to receive from the United States, well, President Trump said that's not going to happen. So what's next? Well, analysts say that Moscow could retaliate by restricting energy exports to Europe and having deeper ties with China. Meanwhile, President Trump's postponed meeting with Vladimir Putin in Budapest and his talks with NATO chief Mark Rutte at the White House suggest that the U.S. is shoring up allies and allied unity, but also testing how far Trump can go in isolating Russia without escalating the conflict any further. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
U.S. forces have struck another vessel alleged to be carrying drugs, this time in the waters of the Pacific Ocean.
Well, the development has been confirmed by the Pentagon. A video shared by Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth appears to show a long blue speedboat moving through the water before being struck by U.S. ordnance. Hexet said that 2 people on board the vessel were killed, adding that the vessel was known to U.S. intelligence and was believed to be carrying drugs along the known trafficking route in international waters. The strike marks the 8th U.S. strike against suspected drug boats since September 2nd, but the first in the Pacific. Until now, the strikes had only taken place in the Caribbean.
In a post on social media, Hexet warned narco-terrorists intending to bring what he labelled poison to the U.S. shores. He said they will find no safe harbour anywhere in the country. U.S. estimates from the Drug Enforcement Agency DEA indicate that the vast majority of cocaine bound for U.S. cities pass through the Pacific. Drug seizures in the Caribbean account for a relatively small percentage of the total, although U.S. officials have warned that it is rising.
President Donald Trump and his Colombian counterpart Gustavo Petro traded threats as the U.S. announced its first strike on the alleged drug smuggling boat in the Pacific Ocean. Now, Trump branded Petro a thug and suggested he was a drug trafficker, leading his country to ruins, prompting Petro to vow that he will defend himself legally with American lawyers.
Trump said vital military aid to Colombia had been cut and warned Petro to watch it, hours after Hexet shared the video of a boat engulfed in flames.
We've just, as of today, stopped all payments going to Colombia, the country Colombia. Also, the school Colombia. No, we settled. We made a settlement with him. But no, he's a thug, and he's a bad guy, and he's hurt his country very badly.
Now, shifting our focus to West Asia, Israel's parliament has given its initial approval to a bill that would extend Israeli law to the occupied West Bank.
This is a move widely being seen as a step towards annexation of the territory that Palestinians seek for a future state.
The following are the results of the vote. 25 in favour, 24 against. I determined that the bill by Representative Avi Maoz was approved in the preliminary reading and will be discussed in the Foreign Affairs and Security Committee in order to prepare it for the first reading.
Now, the first of 4 votes needed to enact the bill came as U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance visited Israel just weeks after President Donald Trump declared that he would block any move by Israel to annex the West Bank.
A second bill introduced by an opposition party and proposing the annexation of the Adumim settlement was approved with a vote of 31-9.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has cautioned that Israel's plan to advance a bill applying sovereignty in the West Bank risks undermining the Gaza ceasefire deal.
Qatar has strongly condemned the Israeli Knesset's approval of the 2 laws seeking to impose Israeli sovereignty over the occupied West Bank and a settlement. Saudi Arabia has also condemned the Knesset's approval of the laws, describing them as violations, and reaffirmed its backing of for a Palestinian state within the 1967 borders, with East Jerusalem as its capital.
Meanwhile, Jordanian Foreign Ministry has called the move a flagrant violation of international law and a blow to the 2-state solution. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party did not back the West Bank measure, which was introduced by lawmakers outside his governing coalition. The bill narrowly passed its preliminary vote 25-24 in the 120-member parliament.
Several lawmakers from Prime Minister Netanyahu's coalition, including members of the Jewish Power Party and the religious Zionism faction, voted in favor of the bill. The measure still faces a lengthy legislative process before it can become law. Coalition members have long urged Israel to formally annex parts of the West Bank, citing the territory's biblical and historical significance to the Jewish people.
Now, in 2024, the United Nations highest court ruled that Israel's occupation of Palestinian territories, including the West Bank and the settlements built there, are illegal, calling for their withdrawal as soon as possible. Well,
Israel maintains that the territories it seized during the 1967 war are not legally occupied, arguing they are disputed lands. However, the United Nations and the vast majority of the international community consider them to be occupied territory.
now, the United Arab Emirates, the most prominent Arab nation to normalize relations with Israel under the Abraham Accords brokered by Donald Trump during his first term, warned last month that any move to annex the West Bank would be a red line for the Gulf state.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is due in Israel on Thursday as President Donald Trump's administration works to reinforce a fragile truce between Israel and Hamas in Gaza.
Now, during this visit, Rubio will meet Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He will also visit the newly opened Civil Military Coordination Center in southwestern Israel, from where U.S. allied and Israeli forces are monitoring the ceasefire and overseeing aid delivery.
His visit comes after Vice President J.D. Vance met the Israeli Prime Minister and stressed that American troops will not be deployed inside Gaza and the deployment of forces to monitor the ceasefire will be done with Israel's consent.
Now, reports suggest that Turkey could contribute troops to that mission, which have sparked anger in Israel. Netanyahu said that any decision on the force would be made jointly with Washington.
On Wednesday, Deputy Prime Minister Yariv Levin ordered the deportation of 32 foreign activists who had helped Palestinians harvest olives, accusing them of violating military orders.
Israeli forces dropped leaflets over Khan Yunis region, urging residents not to cross the so-called yellow line, marking the limit of troop withdrawal.
Now, at the United Nations, officials warned of a deepening humanitarian crisis in Gaza. They said that nearly 70% of Gaza's newborns are now premature or underweight.
The International Court of Justice in The Hague ordered Israel to allow humanitarian agencies access to Gaza and provide for Palestinians' basic survival needs.
The court reiterates that ultimately the realization of the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination, including its right to an independent and sovereign state, living side by side in peace with the State of Israel, within secure and recognized borders for both states, as envisaged in resolution of the Security Council and General Assembly, would contribute to regional stability and the security of all states in the Middle East.
UN rights expert Francesca Albanese criticized the US brokered ceasefire plan as insufficient and accused Israel and the United States of perpetuating what she termed a genocide.
Now, a new poll by Reuters and Ipsos shows that most Americans now support recognizing a Palestinian state, including 80% of Democrats and more than 40% of Republicans. The Arctic chill that once kept them away, now even Iceland isn't safe. For the first time in recorded history, mosquitoes have invaded the world's last insect-free frontier.
The story explains why scientists are worried and they're studying the phenomena further. More in this next report. Take a look.
For centuries, Iceland stood as one of Earth's last mosquito-free havens, a land guarded by frost, glaciers and endless winds from the Arctic. Now that barrier has been breached. Scientists have confirmed the first ever discovery of wild mosquitoes on the island, a startling development that has both locals and researchers on edge. The findings came from Bjorn Halterson, an amateur insect enthusiast who was studying moths in the glacial valley of Choksi. About 20 miles north of Reykjavik, what he caught instead could rewrite Iceland's natural history. 3 tiny intruders, 2 female and 1 male mosquitoes. The insects were identified as Culiseta annulata, a hardy species common across Europe and North Africa, and one that can withstand freezing winters, even surviving in ice-crusted ponds. Until now, Iceland shared its mosquito-free status only with Antarctica, thanks to its bone-chilling winters and scarce standing water, a crucial breeding ground for mosquitoes. But now warmer temperatures, record-breaking summers, and shifting weather patterns appear to have tilted the balance. This past May saw Iceland's highest temperature ever recorded at 26.6 degrees Celsius, marking a turning point for the island's fragile ecosystem. Iceland is warming at 4 times the rate of the rest of the northern hemisphere. Glaciers have been collapsing and fish from warmer southern climes such as mackerel have been found in the country's waters. Mosquitoes are not merely annoyance, they are among nature's most efficient survivors. There are over 3,500 species worldwide, found from tropical jungles to Arctic tundra. Their ability to adapt, evolve, and exploit new environments is unmatched. A dark reminder of how fast Earth's climate is changing. Iceland's mosquito invasion may seem small, but it signals something enormous. Even the coldest corners of the planet are warming enough to welcome creatures that once couldn't survive there. The ice fortress has cracked, and life, as always, finds a way. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And next up, we have some heartwarming visuals from the Oregon Zoo for you.
This is where an 8-month-old Asian elephant was seen playing soccer with a pumpkin at an annual festival where elephants smash half-ton pumpkins. Take a look. And with that, it's time for a short break on World DNA.
Of course, lots more lined up for you after this short break. Bihar is all set to vote in a high-stakes assembly election in November, but the battle lines have revealed a contest between the biggest political families of the state. We'll bring you all the details.
Also on the other side of World DNA, US is considering sweeping new export restrictions targeting Chinese goods made with the United States software. Now a move that could escalate tensions in the US-China tech rivalry. All this and more coming up on World DNA. Stay tuned, you're watching Beyond World is One.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate tracker on WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS Centenary Year, Kesariya at 100.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate tracker on WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching World DNA with Shivan and Diksha. We have lots lined up for you on this side of the show as well. But first, a quick check of the headlines.
Delhi's air quality remains in the very poor category for the fourth day. A thick smog engulfs the city early in the morning, days after the city celebrated a cracker-filled Diwali.
The two biggest oil companies, among the biggest in the world, but they're Russian. They do a lot of oil.
Donald Trump slapped sanctions on Russia's two largest oil companies, complaining that his talks with Vladimir Putin to end the Ukraine war didn't go anywhere.
Donald Trump says he expects to reach a trade deal with Chinese President Xi Jinping and intends to raise concerns about Beijing's purchases of Russian oil during their meeting in South Korea next week.
Qatar and Saudi Arabia condemned Knesset approving two laws imposing Israeli sovereignty over occupied West Bank, calling it a blatant violation of rights of Palestinian people and a challenge to international law.
New U.S. strike on an alleged drug smuggling boat kills two people. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announces the first such attack on a vessel in the Pacific Ocean. Trump says his administration has legal authority to carry out the strikes.
Well, he's a thug and bad guy. He's a guy that is making a lot of drugs. We've just, as of today, stopped all payments going to Colombia, the country Colombia.
US President Donald Trump and his Colombian counterpart exchange angry threats as the US president calls Gustavo Petro a thug and a drug trafficker, prompting the leftist leader to vow legal action in US courts.
Venezuela's President Maduro says Caracas has 5,000 Russian-made surface-to-air missiles to counter U.S. forces in the Caribbean, emphasizing their role in key air defense positions to ensure peace.
Tesla smashed revenue records last quarter, pulling in about $28 billion, topping forecasts as Americans rushed to buy EVs before tax credits expired. But profits slipped amid high costs, and the company offered no full-year outlook.
England's unbeaten run in the ICC Women's ODI World Cup is over. A 180-run partnership between Ash Gardner and Annabelle Sutherland leads Australia to a comfortable 6-wicket win against England.
We have some breaking news coming in. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will skip the 47th ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia next week.
In a post on social media, Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim said that he received a phone call from his Indian counterpart on Wednesday informing him that he will be attending the summit but virtually, given that Diwali celebrations are still underway in India. Extending Diwali greetings to the people of India, Prime Minister Ibrahim said that he respects Prime Minister Modi's decision.
Well, he also stressed on his commitment to strengthening Malaysia-India relations and further enhancing ASEAN-India cooperation towards a more peaceful and prosperous region. And for more on this, our Assistant Editor for Foreign Affairs, Siddhant Sibal, is now joining us on the phone line. Siddhant, what can you tell us?
Well, this is something that was expected. There was a strong buzz yesterday that the PM won't be going. It will be the External Affairs Minister, and it's now confirmed with the readout from the Malaysian side. Both sides held telephonic conversations yesterday evening, and in that telephonic conversation, the Indian Prime Minister informed that he will be attending the summit virtually. Now, remember, the summit happens on 26th and 27th, and this is the second time in last 10 years that the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to essentially not attend the summit. And the last time it was in 2022. Now, in both the cases, whether it's 2022 or 2025, we know that state election was around the corner. That time in 2022, it was the Gujarat and Himachal elections. This time it's the Bihar election. But on that side, we know that Donald Trump also attends the Malaysia summit, where, of course, was a buzz if the leaders meet. So far, both the leaders haven't met in person for a long time, even though they held telephonic conversations. And there are several issues of friction, whether it's the trade issue, whether it's Donald Trump's repeated claim that he, of course, was responsible for the India-Pakistan ceasefire.
All right, Siddhant, thanks so much for getting us the latest on that. That was Siddhant Sibal getting us the latest, as Prime Minister Modi will be attending the ASEAN summit virtually. That's the news we have for you as of now. India has submitted official photos of barrack number 12 at Mumbai's Arthur Road jail. This is where fugitive jeweler Mehul Choksi will be housed after his extradition.
Well, the 46 square meter barrack has 2 cells with attached toilets and basic facilities. The move counters Choksi's claim of poor prison conditions and alleged judicial bias, which the Belgian court rejected. Now, India has assured Choksi's rights and health will be protected.
The development comes after Belgium cleared the way for Mehul Choksi's extradition, and this is in connection with with the 13,000 crore Punjab National Bank scam case. Belgian authorities tell WION that Mehul Choksi has 15 days to appeal against his extradition order. They have revealed that the fugitive diamond trader hasn't appealed against the order yet.
Well, the decision was rendered on 17th of October by the Chamber of Accusations of the Antwerp Court of Appeal. The Belgian court ruled that it had found no obstacle in sending the fugitive diamantaire and PNB scam accused back to India. This ruling came on an appeal filed by Choksi against a Belgian lower court decision from November 29th last year, which had also cleared his extradition.
The majority of the crimes Choksi is accused of include criminal conspiracy, criminal breach of trust, forgery and embezzlement. They are punishable under both Indian and Belgian law, fulfilling the principle of dual criminality.
All right, moving on, Bihar is all set to vote in a high-stakes assembly election next month.
Nominations closed for the first phase last week. Out of 243 seats, 121 are up for grabs on the 6th of November. 1,314 candidates across political parties are contesting in phase 1.
But the battle lines predominantly reveal a contest between the biggest political families of Bihar. But while poll issues and electoral arithmetic may vary across the state, what remains constant is the family-first nature of the state's politics. From the incumbent NDA alliance partners to opposition Grand Alliance parties, the lure of dynasty politics runs deep.
In NDA, the founder of Hindustani Awam Morcha and Union Minister Jitan Ram Manjhi tops the list of tickets provided to his family members. Manjhi has fielded his daughter-in-law Deepa Manjhi from the Imamganj seat, where Deepa's mother Jyoti Devi is contesting from Barachatil. Another dynastic candidate is Ritu Raj Kumar, son of former MP and seasoned leader Arun Kumar.
Now, from the opposition, Rashtriya Janata Dal, the biggest dynastic face is that of Tejasvi Yadav, son of former Bihar Chief Minister Lalu Prasad Yadav. Now, Tejasvi is contesting from the family stronghold of Raghupur. Another big name is that of Osama Sahab, son of turned politician late Muhammad Sahabuddin. Other dynastic candidates include Rahul Tiwari, who is the son of senior RJD leader and former MP Shivanand Tiwari.
Similarly, the ruling JDU's list of candidates is no different from its rivals. The party has fielded strongman Anant Singh, husband of sitting MLA Neelam Devi, while former MP Anand Mohan's son Chetan Anand has been given a ticket from Nabinagar. Now, the Bharatiya Janata Party, which remains vocal on dynastic politics, fares no different. Its biggest dynastic face is that of Deputy CM Samrat Chaudhary, who is the son of former MP Shakuni Chaudhary. He is contesting an election after a gap of 15 years from the Tarapur Assembly seat. Another big family face is Nitish Mishra, son of former Chief Minister Jagannath Mishra. Shreyasi Singh, daughter of late Union Minister Digvijay Singh, has been fielded from Jamui.
Now, across the political spectrum, almost 25% of all tickets in the first phase have been given to family members of the politicians. While all sides accuse each other of nepotism in politics, the family-first undercurrent in Bihar's upcoming elections is hard to miss. The state votes in two phases on November 6th and November 11th, and counting of votes will take place on November 14th.
The US has imposed its toughest sanctions yet on Russia since the Ukraine war began, this time directly targeting Moscow's two largest oil companies.
President Donald Trump announced the sweeping measures, signaling a major policy shift as pressure mounts to bring both sides to the negotiating table. The new sanctions hit Russia's energy giants Rosneft and Lukoil, two of the country's biggest oil producers. The US Treasury Department says the move is part of a coordinated effort to force Moscow into an immediate ceasefire in Ukraine, now entering its fourth year. Now, these are the first Russia-related sanctions of Trump's second term, marking a significant change from his earlier approach that relied mostly on tariffs rather than direct financial penalties.
Under the new order, US firms and citizens are barred from doing business with the sanctioned companies, a blow to Russia's oil export network that has shifted heavily towards Asia since Western countries imposed a $60 per barrel price cap after the 2022 invasion. Trump also confirmed a planned summit in Hungary with Russian President Vladimir Putin, which has been cancelled, saying that it just didn't feel right. We'll meet in the future. This is what Trump said.
Look, these are tremendous sanctions. These are very big. Those are against their two big oil companies. And we hope that they won't be on for long. We hope that the war will be settled.
Well, Trump added that he hopes these sanctions will push both Putin and Ukrainian President Zelensky towards peace, calling the conflict ridiculous and saying it's time to make a deal. He also said that Russia has suffered 8,000 soldier deaths last week, underscoring the escalating toll on both sides.
I think that they'll certainly have an impact. They're massive sanctions. It's sanctions on oil. The two biggest oil companies, among the biggest in the world, but they're Russian. They do a lot of oil. And hopefully it'll push, hopefully he'll become reasonable, and hopefully Zelensky will be reasonable too. You know, it takes two to tango, as they say.
Standing alongside Trump, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte praised the move, saying that the sanctions are designed to change the calculus and pressure Putin to accept a ceasefire and begin talks.
What the president is doing today with these sanctions is putting more pressure, of course, on both parties, in this case on Russia. It's all about changing the calculus, making sure that Putin understands that the president's vision this weekend of having a ceasefire, stop where they are, as you literally said, that this has to be step one now. And for him to really accept that vision and to come to the table. And then you have to put pressure, and this is exactly what he did today.
The European Union also joined in, announcing a ban on Russian liquefied natural gas imports, further tightening the energy squeeze in Moscow. Well, together, the US and EU actions could hit tens of billions of dollars in Russian energy revenues, money that helps fund its war in Ukraine. US President Donald Trump prepares for high-stakes talks with China next week, aiming to seal a trade deal and discuss Russian oil purchases.
Meanwhile, Washington is considering sweeping new export restrictions targeting Chinese goods made with US software, a move that could escalate tensions in the US-China tech rivalry.
Well, Trump announced that he will visit Malaysia, South Korea and Japan next week, with a key meeting planned in Seoul with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Now, Trump expressed optimism, saying, "I think we'll make a deal," highlighting possible agreements on rare earth minerals, US soybeans and even nuclear arms control.
In South Korea, I'll be meeting with President Xi of China. We'll have a pretty long meeting scheduled. We can work out a lot of our questions and our doubts and our tremendous assets together. So we look forward to that. I think something will work out. We have a very good relationship, but that'll be a big one.
Trump stressed that tariffs remain a major bargaining chip, but downplayed rare earth mineral issues, saying there is ample supply worldwide. He also noted ongoing talks about including China in nuclear de-escalation efforts, as Russia reportedly hinted at lowering its nuclear posture.
I think we'll make a deal. I think we're going to make a deal on the rare earth is the least of it. Look, the tariffs are much more powerful than the rare earth. The rare earth is a disturbance, but there's a lot of rare earth around. I'll tell you, I've had more calls on rare earth. We've got it. Everybody's. We'll make a deal on, I think, everything. I think we're going to make a deal on soybeans and the farmers.
Meanwhile, US officials are considering broad export curbs on Chinese-made goods that incorporate or were produced using US software. Sources say this potential move targets the fast-growing tech and manufacturing sectors, aiming to limit China's access to critical technology amid rising competition.
If implemented, these restrictions would mark a sharp escalation in the US-China tech rivalry, affecting products from smartphones to advanced machinery. The move follows concerns about China's expanding global tech influence and the strategic use of US-origin technology in its supply chains. Trump's upcoming talks with President Xi Jinping will likely address these tensions.
And of course, it will include China's controversial purchases of discounted Russian oil, a key issue for Washington. Trump praised India's recent reduction in Russian oil imports, but said that China's relationship with Russia remains complicated, partly shaped by policies under previous US administrations.
India, as you know, has told me they are stop. You know, it's a process. You can't just stop it. But by the end of the year, they'll be down to almost nothing. That's a big thing. There was almost 40% of the oil. India, they've been great. Spoke to Prime Minister Modi yesterday. They've been absolutely great. China's a little bit different. You know, they're a little bit different relationship they have with Russia. It was never good, but because of Biden and Obama, they got forced together. They should never have been forced together.
And for reasons known and unknown, the Labubu craze took over a lot of people. But now, is that craze dying out? Resale sellers who had earlier reaped profits off mass sales of the controversial doll seem to think so.
Well, recently, sellers have been reporting a rapid dip in the resale value of the infamous Labubu dolls. Earlier, the Labubu dolls had reportedly accounted for more than a third of the first half revenue for Pop Mart, which is the maker of the dolls. The sales soared particularly after several celebrities were spotted with it, including K-pop group Blackpink member Lisa, singer Rihanna, and former soccer player David Beckham, to name a few. However, the days of making money through the doll might just be over. A recent dip reported in resale prices has raised questions on how long will demand for Labubus even last.
According to data from Chinese art toy resale platform Qiandao, the Prince of Labubu character Luck, launched in April this year, peaked in June when it was valued above 500 yuan or close to $70 on the secondary market. However, it has now dropped to less than half. The prices of other characters in the series too have reportedly fallen below the official Pop Mart stores numbers. Investors suspect that this could be due to cooling demand, with Pop Mart's share priced down around 25% since August highs. However, analysts think that the real issue could be oversupply rather than shortage of demand, and that might very well signal the beginning of the end of the Labubu era.
Plush 2D grin monster dolls modeled as Labubus came into fashion when China was recovering from the pandemic fatigue in late 2022. And even as for long, the Labubu fame remained limited to China only. The trend got picked up early this year, the rise in its popularity creating a sales boom in more than 30 countries, from the US and UK to Australia and Singapore, among others.
Social media also helped spread the word, with posts about the brand multiplying more than 30-fold in China alone, while searches jumped 26 times compared with last year. This saw the youth, especially Gen Z, heavily embracing the trend and making it quickly viral.
Another news, Apple is facing a new antitrust complaint in Europe.
Two civil rights groups have accused the tech giant of violating the European Union's Digital Markets Act, a landmark law designed to rein in the power of big tech and create a level playing field for smaller rivals.
Now, according to Reuters, the complaint was filed jointly by civil rights groups, Article 19 and Society for Civil Rights, to the European Commission, and it targets Apple's terms and conditions for its App Store, iPhones and iPads, and says that they prevent small businesses and developers from competing fairly.
The civil rights groups have said that Apple's rules block interoperability, meaning smaller firms can't easily make their apps work with Apple systems. They also criticized Apple's restrictions on the installation and use of third-party software apps and app stores, calling them a breach of the EU's Digital Markets Act.
Now, a key point of contention is Apple's requirement that developers provide over $1 million standby letter of credit if they want to develop apps for distribution in Apple's App Store. Now, even if they are small or independent businesses, rights groups have said that this creates an unfair barrier for small and medium enterprises. They've asked the European Commission to investigate and fine Apple, which was already fined $583 million earlier this year in April for breaching the very same law. Under the Digital Markets Act, penalties can reach up to 10% of the company's global annual revenue.
And in football, Liverpool have ended their run of 4 straight losses in style.
The Reds came from a goal down to thrash Eintracht Frankfurt in the Champions League 5-1. The Reds were desperate for a win. Onslaught made bold decisions on Wednesday night as his team looked to avoid their worst losing run.
Long-distance drive wrapped up the win for the visitors. After 3 matches, Liverpool sit 10th.
5-1, and now they've lost 2, 5-1. That's the scoreline to haunt them.
And New York played host to a glittering red carpet night as stars gathered for the premiere of Jan Komasa's political thriller, Anniversary.
And more about this in this next story. Take a look.
Well, our country is always in some form of an arm wrestling maneuver, always. And, you know, the fact that Jan is Polish and this was his first English-speaking film, despite the fact that Good Boy, as wonderful as it is, came out first. This was his first English-speaking film. We're very proud to have him because he's the right man for the job in terms of his perspective on the American experiment known as democracy.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of World DNA. But don't go anywhere. More news and updates will follow on the other side. You're watching Beyond World is One. Stay tuned.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate tracker on WION World is One.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS Centenary Year, Kesariya at 100.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Thanks for tuning to WION. I'm Samiksha Srivastava. Let's get started with Speed News. President Donald Trump imposed new sanctions on Russia's two largest oil companies, Rosneft and Lukoil, due to Moscow's continued military operations in Ukraine. The US president said that his conversations with Vladimir Putin are good but ultimately do not go anywhere, highlighting the challenges in reaching a resolution to the conflict. Trump hoped sanctions on Russia's oil companies will help make Putin reasonable about ending the war. In fact, Trump even added that China could also have a big influence in this regard. Emergency crews in Zaporizhia are working to clear debris and assess damage after Russian drone strikes hit residential areas, injuring 15 people, including 3 children, and damaging numerous buildings. More than 120 residents have reported damage to their properties. Emergency crews are on the scene, sifting through the rubble to ensure no one is trapped and to provide support to those affected. In a landmark agreement, the Ukrainian president has signed a letter of intent with Sweden to potentially acquire up to 150 Gripen E-fighter jets produced by Saab. During his visit to Linköping, Sweden, Zelensky got a first-hand look at the Gripen capabilities, sitting in the cockpit and learning more about the aircraft's advanced features. President Donald Trump says that he's optimistic about reaching a trade agreement with Chinese President Xi Jinping during their upcoming meeting in South Korea. The US president said that he plans to discuss China's purchases of Russian oil and potentially restart China's purchases of US soybeans. People in New York took to streets to protest a recent ICE activity just a day after a high-profile raid targeted street vendors on Manhattan's Canal Street. Demonstrators equipped with signs and drums expressed their fear and frustration, calling for ICE to leave the New York City. The raid, which followed social media posts from pro-Trump influencers urging ICE to crack down on African immigrants selling goods in the area, that resulted in 14 arrests, including some for assaulting federal law enforcement officers as well. Critics argue that ICE's tactics involve racial profiling and even detaining immigrants without criminal records. Qatar and Saudi Arabia have strongly condemned the Israeli Knesset approving 2 laws aimed at imposing Israeli sovereignty over the occupied West Bank, calling it a blatant violation of the rights of the Palestinian people and a challenge to international law. Qatar has called on the international community, especially the United Nations Security Council, to take urgent measures and compel Israel to halt its annexation plans. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio is visiting Israel on Thursday as President Donald Trump's administration works to reinforce a fragile truce between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. During his visit, he will be meeting Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and will also visit newly opened Civil Military Coordination Center in southwestern Israel, where aid delivery and ceasefire monitoring are underway. Rubio's visit aims to solidify the truce and discuss regional security crisis too. The US military has conducted its 8th strike against a suspected drug trafficking vessel, this time in the Pacific Ocean, killing 2 people on board. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has confirmed the operation, stating that the vessel was involved in illicit narcotic smuggling and posed a threat to US citizens. The strike marks an expansion of President Donald Trump's campaign against Latin American cartels, with the US military targeting vessels in international waters. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has announced that the country possesses over 5,000 Russian-made surface-to-air missiles to counter US forces in the Caribbean, emphasizing their role in key air defense positions to safeguard national peace and stability. He emphasized the potency of these missiles, warning that Venezuela is prepared to defend its territory against any potential threats. US and Panamanian forces conducted joint jungle survival training at the former US military base Fort Sherman near Colon in Panama. The exercises come amid heightened tensions with Venezuela and Colombo. The training is part of a bilateral cooperation program which involves survival techniques, tactical maneuvers, and even tracking in jungle terrain. It seeks to bolster regional security cooperation, enhance interoperability between the forces of both nations, and strengthen preparedness for natural disasters and even transnational threats. North Korea said that it successfully tested new hypersonic missile systems, demonstrating its growing nuclear deterrent capabilities. According to Korean Central News Agency, the launches involved 2 hypersonic projectiles that accurately struck a land target in country's northern region. It described the system as strategic, implying that they were designed to be armed with nuclear warheads. The tests are seen as a show of strength ahead of Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation meeting that is to take place in South Korea, where world leaders including President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping are expected to gather as well. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will virtually attend the 47th ASEAN Summit that is being held next week in Kuala Lumpur. Prime Minister Modi conveyed his decision to his Malaysian counterpart Anwar Ibrahim, stressing his commitment to strengthening relations between the two countries and enhancing ASEAN-India cooperation towards a more peaceful and prosperous region.